damp carpeting, walls covered with dingy yellow wallpaper, and a room that's so lifeless and deafeningly quiet that you can hear the lights above you. These are all elements of a back room, and by the time you would have realized you're in one, it would be far too late.
The backrooms are an extensive labyrinth. Each as eerie as the next. The way to get to them is essentially no clip out of existence in our plane of reality.
No clipping is something you might see often done in video games, where the player will suddenly be able to pass through walls and navigate through the game's environment, seemingly breaking the code of the game. Now imagine this, but done in real life. The Backrooms levels are seemingly infinite in number, and they're all rated based upon how confusing the level is or what entities they might contain. And these entities are straight from your nightmares. The big three being Smilers, Skin Stealers, and Hounds. This video by Kane Parsons, aka Kane Pixels on YouTube, gave all 27 million of its viewers a feel for what it would be like to suddenly find yourself in the Backrooms. Though you definitely can attribute the video with some of the popularity of the Backrooms, you can't credit Kane with creating them. In fact, his video only came out 4 months ago, in January of this year. To arrive at the origins of the Backrooms, we need to go all the way back to a 2019 post on the website 4chan. The image posted depicted a room that looked like it belonged in an office building. It had manila walls, yellow lighting, and the picture was taken at an off-putting angle. As it does with everything else, the internet took it and ran with it. By 2020, the post had taken on a life of its own, and being in the midst of a pandemic probably didn't do any damage in bolstering its popularity. After a couple viewings of Kane's video and many others, I tried to make sense out of this thing I couldn't yet understand. Thinking that it couldn't be so straightforward, I looked for a psychological or metaphorical meaning. For that, I turned to Miss Ray Johnson, a licensed clinical counselor in the state of Virginia.
I honestly was thinking that it was maybe metaphorical for the deeper recesses of your brain, like that inner quiet space that that people don't like to tap into oftentimes, kind of like those uncomfortable places you go to that you can let your mind go to if you allow it. That was the metaphor I was picking up on, and that's the feeling of being uncomfortable. We base a lot of things on our personal experiences. So COVID brought out a lot of isolation things, you know, like people talked. I remember at one point, publishers, I think towards the end of 2020, they were asking people not to submit any more books based on isolation and COVID. Like it had become so overwhelming, and they had so many, like people with their short stories and with their, you know, novels, and it was just everybody was writing a book about being alone, and it was like, okay, we did it. We're all alone right now. We're all going through a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of different ways to look at that. But I thought that was humorous that, you know, like it was that prevalent that everybody was dealing with their aloneness, and some handled it better than others, you know. And I think a creative outlet, like it would be a good thing, I think, to come up with a way to say, okay, let's, you know, explore being alone to the full extent of not having a single soul, you know, around, right. Which is kind of what this is.
The thing that makes all these legends feel so immersive is not only how seriously the respective communities take it, but on how they expand upon it as well. And that's exactly what the Backrooms wiki forums do. Any question that could possibly poke a hole in the idea of the Backrooms being real was met with an answer. How are people powering cameras to take pictures of the levels with? There are outlets. How are they putting these videos on the internet if the Backrooms are in some alternate dimension? Answer. There are levels in rooms with Wi-Fi.
Oh my gosh, she's sprinting. I don't even know where to go. Oh my gosh. Oh! I can't.
Look.
That was an experience, yeah. I don't even know what to say, because it was so random. It was a lot of empty space, which is honestly uncomfortable. I feel like for most human beings, it's just like weird to see a lot of empty space, and it's like why? Because it was so much empty space, but then there was like one thing in the empty space, and it was not anything good, obviously.
This is a concept like I've heard the discussion of like, are we living in a simulation, and what does that look like? And this kind of would definitely like open minds.
Beyond that, all of these urban legends and creepypastas scare people for essentially the same reason. The Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Slender Man, all the way to Jeff the Killer. All videos or content surrounding these characters are centered around one person or thing that are out to get you. Seeing that this is lacking, on the surface at least, and the backrooms are just rooms, what is it that makes this creepypasta so, well, creepy? Is it the fact that in some levels you can walk in a straight line for countless miles and end up exactly where you began? The sheer hopelessness of knowing that you may never be able to escape?
Can anybody hear me?
Or the inescapable loneliness that can cause one to lose what little sanity they'll have left? That answer lies within my conversation with Brian Lovelace, a behavioral analyst and a professor at UNT.
But from what I understand, it's based on something called liminal spaces. I think that's how you say it. And those are situations like if you go down, you go down a hallway in an office building, and normally during the day there's people and there's a lot of life and everything. But if it's out of context, so it's at night or something like that, there's not a lot of people around. It gives you this eerie sense of there's just it has something eerie about it. It's there that aspect of the environment's missing that is normally associated with it. So kind of like a dead mall. Like if you walked into a dead mall, there's no stores and but it's open and you can hear the music playing. Kind of gives you this sense of being disconnected, that sense of just being alone and adrift, and maybe there's something unexpected. It's like you're on your way to a destination of some kind. And with the Backrooms, it never ends. So I think that is probably what gives it that weird feeling, and plus you got that buzz in the background.
To most people, one of the more truly disturbing aspects of the Backrooms is that you don't ever know what's coming around that corner next. For some, it's the liminal spaces, and for others, it's something completely different. At the end of the day, it's up to you to enter the Backrooms and find out for yourself. I'm Nick O'Gelly with NT Daily, signing off.